Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. When I was a teenager, my extended family, my parents, sister, me, aunt, uncle, cousins, all in all 8 persons, went on our annual multi-day cycling tour. But due to bad weather, we had to reschedule and ended up renting an apartment in Ticino, Switzerland. That had enough beds for all of us, but only one shower. It's not that easy to find accommodations for 8 persons in high season, so this was the only option. So one late afternoon, we came back from a long day cycling the steep mountains around Lake Maggiore. We did a couple of hundred, maybe even 1,000 meters of elevation difference in a very humid climate that day. So you can imagine all of us were really sweaty and really hungry. I probably should add that this was long before bikes were a thing. We did those cycling vacations every year, going back to when we kids were in elementary school, always those 2 families who were really close, and yes, we were and are crazy when it comes to cycling. To prevent fights, we always settled on an order for the shower as soon as we got back to the apartment. I was supposed to be third in line, but my aunt insisted I gave her my shower slot because she needed to be finished sooner than me. As most of the days, the adults were cooking dinner, and we all ate at the apartment. This made sense to me as I figured she wanted to get a shower before starting to cook. As soon as she was in the shower, I found out we were supposed to go to a restaurant for dinner that day. So there wasn't any reason for my aunt to jump the queue other than she was last in line and probably figured there wouldn't be any hot water left for her. I tried to get in the shower next, but my sister, cousins, etc. insisted that I lost my spot by letting my aunt jump the queue and had to wait until all of them were finished. Everyone was in a hurry as we all were really hungry after all the cycling and we wanted to leave for the restaurant as soon as we could. Cue malicious compliance. While I was waiting to finally get into the shower, I secretly snacked on a packet of nuts to soothe my hungry tummy and patiently waited my time. When I finally got in the shower, I washed my long hair, used conditioner, rinsed again, made sure to put on lotion after showering, and finally blow-drying my hair. Like really thoroughly blow-drying my hair, even though it was hot outside and I really didn't need to blow-dry my hair. By that time, my family was banging on the bathroom door, trying to make me hurry up as everyone was really hungry. When I finally got out of the bathroom, my family gave me shit for taking so long and making them wait when they were starving. So I told them that my aunt had tricked me out of my slot in the shower line and that none of them were willing to let me shower earlier. What did they expect when they made the only person who wore their hair long shower last? Well, they always made sure I was one of the first to shower after that. On every vacation. So I want to start this off by thanking you guys for your responses and suggestions. I appreciate it very much. I also want to say that I knew I wasn't effing crazy. She had me genuinely thinking I was starting to lose my mind when I would feel extremely pitiful and then talk about it to my boyfriend. She hates when I do that. She hates being discussed. He doesn't even know her, so she's not bothered because he might do something. It's just a bullet to the ego because she knows what she does is wrong and I won't agree with it. They'll think and talk badly about her, and she no longer feels like the big bad wolf. It took me yesterday to understand that the clarification and relief I feel is overwhelming. So, thank you guys for that. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I got too excited. I'm just getting an interview at Sam's, but that's still amazing news and thanks to everyone who congratulated me. On the other hand, I am very surprised at the response I've gotten from the majority of you guys. I never really considered that this might be abuse. I just assumed since I was a legal adult that none of that mattered and she could do whatever she wants, other than assault me. I figured if I called the cops, they'd agree with her or she'd just kick me out the moment they came to confront her. She likes to weaponize the shelter, obviously, and I know nothing about surviving in a shelter. Are there any rules or things I should know before even thinking about leaving? Would all my belongings be safe? I can't afford to have anything stolen, especially not my electronics. Do they have showers, laundry? For the people suggesting the military, I'm deathly afraid of the military. My mom has totally ruined the military for me. I'm not sure if I can go through with that. Before I was kicked out of my mom's place, I was accepted into a very local community college, and I planned to study respiratory therapy. She kicked me out right before I started, and my grandma lives in a different state. I didn't have a car and the Ubers were very expensive. For that, I had to drop out. I went 3 days and then dropped out. I talked to my teachers about my situation and they basically all said the same thing. That's tough, trade school may be a better option, or I just need to get caught up on the lectures. I thought I could handle the Uber money, but then I realized how much I'd be spending every week and knew I had to give up. I spent that whole year at my grandma's house extremely depressed and discouraged. She lived far away from all my educational and job opportunities, and my mom, who couldn't even pretend to be happy for me, took that college experience away from me over something so petty. She made getting accepted into college so damn stressful. I got accepted and told her the day of. I was excited until she wasn't. I thought that it wasn't something to be proud of because she didn't sound happy. Then when it came down to FAFSA, she is one of those scared of the government people, so she didn't want to fill out my FAFSA, and purposely waited till the last day of FAFSA deadline to finally do it. She complained the whole time about why the government wanted to know all her information like an idiot. I was crying that she was playing around with my life with such spite. She did that on purpose and admitted to it after me begging her for weeks. She is one of those unintelligent people who think they're so profound and unique. I could go on for days about the shit she says and does in trying to be different from society. She's put herself in a competition with made-up followers, and in her mind, she's the leader. It's kind of hilarious now that I sit back and think about it. Very cringe things to say about yourself. Like, seriously, who do you think you are? You're average at best, bitch. She thinks in self-gratifying Facebook quotes. She's terrified of the government. She lives in the suburbs as a past-broke single mother and teen mother. Until the past 7 years, she's needed the governmental benefits every step of the way. She wasn't scared of them then. Now that she's gotten into zodiacs and think black people, we're black Americans with no knowledge about our ethnic background whatsoever, like most of us, are the real Moors, Israelites, and Egyptians, she's terrified of the government. She believes in a slurry of conspiracy theories, including, yes, that's right, flat earth. She uses a weird pink herbal powder she bought online for toothpaste, and raves about her being such a natural person. She's also fat-phobic, homophobic, and doesn't claim Christianity but still uses it to make me feel bad about myself, saying that I am a demon and I have a demon inside of me, that I need God and that I'm an abomination. I called her out on those things, but she always lies and tells you excuses. And every word that comes out of her mouth is an effing lie. I hate when she does that, like I didn't hear her say the shit she said. She thinks herbal remedies can compete with modern medicine for everything. She is a wannabe hippie of some sort, but she works a government job, lives in a suburb, and drives a Lexus. Eats takeout every single day. She hates the government's food, and they're poisoning us, so she grew a garden. She eats her takeout in the car and then brings the almost empty container in the house where the kids beg for it because she doesn't cook. And if they touch the food in the fridge, she'll get angry with them and start yelling at them and belittling them. She's always been very strange when it comes to food. There's so much I could tell you guys about her being an absolute weirdo on her Facebook University ideologies, weird punishments, and humiliation tactics, but I feel like I'm boring you all. Some of you guys say she's psychotic. I think she suffers from NPD. She loves to throw around the word narcissistic when you don't do what she likes. She calls everyone else narcissistic. I think she knows deep down it's her, but she just projects it onto everyone else as a coping method. Genuinely. I'd love to see her get mentally evaluated and see the diagnosis. And she's put us all into therapy besides herself and my youngest sister, her golden child. Calls us crazy for refusing the shit she asks us or becoming depressed and suicidal. She belittles my lack of social skills and lack of social life in my face. Publicly shames me about my body and puts me on the spot and makes people look at me badly. She's the biggest hypocrite I know, and I hate her. I want to get away too, but I don't know what lies beyond these walls. I have an aunt that knows a tiny bit how crazy my mom is. She said if things don't go well with my mom, I'd always have a place with her. She has a room in her house that's empty, a son that's 14, and a fiancé. I could take online classes until I get a car. Work, my job. Clean, cook, stay quiet and out of their way. I'm not loud, nor obnoxious anyway. I think if I sat down and told my aunt all that was going on, she'd force me to leave anyway. If what you guys are saying is true, It's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that you guys say it's abuse. I've never thought of it that way. I don't know if something's wrong with me because of that. My mom's not a good person, nor does she treat me or my siblings normally. You know, in high school, I'd threaten her with keepees if she wouldn't buy groceries for the house sometimes. And me and my sisters were hungry. I knew that wasn't right. She acts poor, but even everyone in the family knows she has more than enough money to take care of her household. She's been sitting on that shit for decades. If she's not a millionaire or almost a millionaire by now, I'd be very surprised. She loves to act like she's struggling, though, and will pull the poor single mother card. If you're a single mom with a job, you should be finding a way to keep your children fed. That's not an excuse not to feed your children right. She's middle class at worst. Her job pays well. She brags about it until we ask her to get groceries or eat something she didn't want us to. I have a terrible relationship with food because of that woman. I'm afraid to eat, really, that's as simple as I can put it. Very health conscious and idolize skinniness. She's fatphobic too, which I was at one point in time, but grew out of it once I started talking to other kids my age, like most of her screwed ideas. I could go on and on about her for days seriously, but thanks guys for the help and I'll keep you updated. So I was in a Home Depot paint aisle, just kind of browsing around and speaking to my mother on the phone, asking what color paint I should get. I was speaking to her in thy, relatively quietly trying not to disturb anybody. All of a sudden I hear hey and feel a hard pull on my shoulder. This bitch spun me around and said, "You should be ashamed of yourself. This is America." To which I replied, "Please don't touch me." I'm sorry if I was speaking too loudly. No, it's not that. Shouldn't be talking that language in here. I stared at her in confusion for a few seconds before hanging up the phone and asking, "Are you mad?" I can speak whatever language I want. She then got angrier for some reason, saying you can't speak that language here. If you want to speak it, go back to where you belong. I lost my shit laughing because of the plain, stereotypical white lady Karen haircut and fit this gummy bear album build woman was wearing, and she started going on about stop laughing. I just said, "I don't have to listen to you." "Do you even know what language I'm speaking or what I'm saying?" She said completely straight-faced. "It doesn't matter." It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is you can't speak that in this country. Tell me what language it is then. It's Iranian, you Muslim. I absolutely lost my mind laughing at this point because they and Persian don't sound anything alike. I then told her, "You need to go away from me," before I asked for an attendant to kick you out of here. She then swung a horribly formed inverted knife hand right at my face, which gave me a decent gash on the right side of my nose because of her long yellow witch nail. Her nail on her pinky apparently broke, and upon realizing that, she started screaming, saying, "That Muslim just attacked me," while there was a small trickle of blood dripping down my face. I just asked the employee, who was already calling the police for a Band-Aid, still laughing my ass off because of her reaction. The police came and asked if I would like to press battery and assault charges, to which I gladly agreed. She ended up struggling so much they threw on resisting as well. Do what you will, I know it sounds far-fetched, but I literally can't make this up. I was just minding my own business at the local supermarket, right? Got my earphones in, blasting some tunes, doing my shopping dance down the aisles. You know the vibe? Now, let me tell you about this dude, Tommy. He's this cool autistic kid always rocking this dope jacket covered in patches. You can't miss him. Tommy's got this thing with loud noises. It's like kryptonite to him, man. So he's walking around doing his own thing, hands covering his ears, trying to avoid the chaos of the supermarket. No big deal, right? Well, enter Karen. Now Karen, she's got this blonde bob that screams, "I want to speak to the manager," and she's pushing her cart like she owns the place. She sees Tommy doing his ear-covering routine and flips her lid. "Hey, you." "What's your problem?" Karen yells, pointing her perfectly manicured finger at Tommy. Tommy, being the chill dude he is, doesn't even notice her. He's in his own world vibing to some tunes that probably only he can hear. But Karen ain't having it. She storms over to him, starts waving her hands in his face like she's swatting flies. I can see this from the surreal aisle, and I'm thinking, oh man, this can't end well. Karen's shouting something about respect and manner. I pull out my earphones, thinking maybe I can defuse the situation. But before I can say a word, Karen's straight-up sucker punches Tommy in the face. I'm talking full-on, right? Hook to jaw kind of punch. Tommy staggers back, looking stunned. I'm standing there like, did this really just happen? And before I can process it, this big dude who's been watching the whole thing comes charging in, yelling, "You can't be hitting people!" Turns out he's an off-duty cop, and he whips out these cuffs like he's been waiting for a moment like this his whole life. Karen's face goes from enraged to, "Oh crap," real quick. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault," he says, and I swear the whole supermarket erupts in cheers. It's like we're at a ball game, and the home team just scored the winning goal. I'm low-key feeling like I'm in an episode of a reality show. The cop's radio is crackling with chatter about an assault in the supermarket, and I'm just standing there with my cart of groceries like, well, this wasn't on my shopping list today. Karen, still acting all entitled, tries to pull the "do you know who I am" card. The cop ain't having it. He's all, "I don't care if you're the Queen of England. You don't get to go around punching people." By this point, a crowd has gathered, and someone's recording the whole thing on their phone. It's like the entire store has turned into a live episode of World's Wildest Supermarket Fights. The cop radios for backup, and another officer shows up. They cuff Karen, and as they're leading her out, she's still yelling about her rights and how she's going to sue everyone in the store. Meanwhile, Tommy's sitting on a stack of cereal boxes, looking a bit dazed. I go over to check on him, and he's like, "Man, that lady hits harder than my little brother." I'm trying not to laugh because, seriously, what else can you do in a situation like this? The cop takes our statements, and I find myself recounting the story like I'm a witness to some absurd comedy sketch. The store manager comes over, apologizing left and right, offering to comp our groceries. Tommy's all cool about it, though. He's like, "I just wanted some Pop-Tarts, man." Eventually, the whole thing settles down. Karen gets hauled off in a police car, the crowd disperses, and Tommy and I are left standing there with our grocery carts, still half expecting Ashton Kutcher to pop out and tell us we've been punked. And that, my friends, is how I spent an otherwise mundane Wednesday afternoon, witnessing a Karen getting cuffed for punching an autistic dude in a supermarket. Life's crazy, ain't it? Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. I had a landlord who was pretty absent. I lived in this building, a high-rise, like 20 stories, for 10 years. He, despite living next door to me, was absent and cold personally, but cool enough. Rent was good. Our agreement was never bother him about anything unless it's an absolute emergency. Showerhead wonky. Go buy a new one. Fridge breaks. Get it fixed, or do just buy a new one. Take it out of what you pay in rent. Lost the receipt. I don't care, I know more or less what a fridge costs, just take it out of rent. Finally, his wife decides she wants more rent, wants to rent the place out as an office, not legal, and wants us out ASAP. I agree to move out a month early and get a month's rent back deposit. Complete 180 on their part. The place is ruined. Can't give you shit until you fix all this stuff. Two main things. My cats did scratch up the leather legs of the dining table, and the pull-up bar made 2 dents in the doorframe of the kitchen, which was quite nice hardwood. They come to me with this list of tons of stuff like, "Oh, you hang a photo frame here. This tile is slightly chipped." This is the busiest work time of the year for me, but I'm trying to be cooperative. Sure, I got the table legs re-leathered, spackle the photo frame wall hole. Can't do anything about the door frame. Take it out of deposit. Patch the tile. Like dozens of little every day, and tear things, like you want me to change the window screen. These are all new screens and in nicer shape than when I moved in. But I did them all. I trusted the guy. Gotta get my money. At the end, he should have been giving me 24 KRMB, whoops, 2,500. He gave me 5. I still need to use the money to fix all that stuff. If you can't accept the 5, I can't give you anything at all. I was super pissed off, but took the 5. Now, people in the building are gossipy. I don't participate, but I did tell this one older lady about my frustration. She told everyone. The wife went from being the star of the mommies group of the building to nobody wanting to talk to her. People shunned the guy, too. I originally told them I was planning on moving to another city, but an opportunity came up, and I ended up renting a similar unit in the same building. So they thought they could just screw me over and not have to see me, but now they still did. Often. Often. A year later, the office calls me with some question about how to do something with the floor heating. I go, Dr. Frame is not fixed. Still has dents. I call the guy like, what the hell, man? And he tells me to mind my own business. 5 years later, I see the light at my old place is still on at 3 a.m. That's odd. I go to check, the door's open, and the place is just trashed, ruined. Cabinets, broken, stuff on the walls, lazy landlord. And the dents on the kitchen door frame are still there. So the guy never fixed anything, just kept my money. By this time, smartphones were popular, and we had a chat group for the whole building, so about 500 people. I took pictures and posted everything. Apparently, he had also nicked these people's deposit, and there was a huge ruckus when they trashed the place. Cops called. All these people chime in with complaints and pictures. People smoking in the hallways, leaving leaky rubbish outside the front door. Videos of people using foul language in front of children. Dirty footprints. He got fined a lot for one. Creating a public disturbance 2. Degrading the quality of the living space 3. Illegally renting a residence as an office, and to top it off, the building management wouldn't grant him permission to have workers in to fix the place. So it sat there empty for like 6 months. The fines were big too. Take 1.5 months rent from me, lose a year's rent. Suck it, bro. I was in the Marines in 1987, stationed at Makaskaneohe on Oahu. Beautiful place to live, horribly expensive to do much of anything off-base due to prices. We lived in a squad bay literally across the street from the base Burger King. Always been a fan of their product. What can I say? Our battalion's chow hall was a 10-minute walk from the barracks I stayed in. The closest barracks to the chow hall was 7 8-minute walk. The chow hall was named Anderson Hall, named for a Navy Cross recipient if memory serves, and it was a craft hall, even by 1980s Marine infantry standard. Think Biloxi Blues, Chow Hall scene style. All the tables and chairs were broken, lopsided, no condiments, bland, over-undercooked. You get whatever they have, screw you, deal with it. You're in the infantry. Or don't eat. Some of you know this feeling. If you don't know, if you're in the U.S. military service, chow is part of the compensation you get. They don't say what, how much, or how often, but it's part of the deal. If you were not in your area at chow time and, say, ended up at the Air Wing Chow Hall, you, with your chow hall card, could eat there instead. They won't turn you down because you were at the wrong chow hall, but they definitely keep track of that. Since the long walk, compared to Burger King, in the hot, humid Hawaiian sun to the aforementioned craft hole on my time was not appealing to me, I would go to the BK Lounge a couple lunches a week, along with lots of other LCPLs from my unit, as well as others that ate at Anderson Hall. The BK got busy, but they would do their thing, and life was as okay as it gets for ALCPL in the Marine Infantry, not out in the field. The Air Wing Chow Hall got a lot of repeat business as well. Apparently, the battalion commander through the mess hall officer got wind of this, probably due to the large number of meals being prepared and not eaten on a daily basis. Also, the other chow halls probably were witching about all the extra meals they had to prepare for irritated Marines who don't belong in their decent, well-maintained chow hall where there are options and politeness and seconds and edible food. I can say this with confidence because orders got issued and everyone who had a chow hall card and could eat for free was to line up at their respective barracks 3x a day, have a head count to make sure that nobody was missing, and then march to the Anderson Hall for their meal. Being the good Marines that we were, we submitted to this latest assault on common decency with all the grace you would expect from pissed-off infantry grunts. There are several types of unit movements in the Marines, route step being one. Route step is a very casual unit march where you can be casual about the movement. Talking is permitted, etc. Day 1, we went to the chow hall route step. Which, all the way there until we were dismissed from formation to go eat. Once dismissed, fully 3 of us walked away without setting a foot in the chow hall. Repeat several times a day for several days. The poor NCO who would be forced to route step us down there got so tired of the witching about bad chow, and life in the infantry in general, we ended up marching to the chow hall. Imagine movie parade unit movement, everyone in step facing forward, looking good and most definitely no witching, to make his life just a little less worse for having drawn the short straw and assigned this task. Initially, if we were off on the weekend, we wouldn't have to march to the chow hall. This lasted one weekend. Second weekend, if you were found in the barrack at chow time, in formation and off to chow you went. Most Marines were never slow on the uptake and were scarce if in the area on the weekend during certain time. Finally, the light bulb turned on and someone came up with the idea of asking why we didn't want to eat at the chow hall. What a day, given permission to witch about your crappy conditions, with theoretically no repercussions. At first it was the platoon sergeant, with an informal witch session. Witching completed, he took his results to the platoon commander, who apparently didn't believe the 15-year veteran infantryman, so then a platoon meeting was called with the platoon commander, first LT in charge. The tone and language definitely changed, but the witching came fast, furious, and amazingly politely to the LT. He reports this to the captain, who holds a company meeting, rinse and repeat. Still not good enough. Major Buffnuts from battalion has to come down and hear the exact same thing, although much more politely. He has been told 3 times already. After our little chat with Major Buffnuts, the force marching to the chow hall stopped, and all was quiet over the weekend. Come Monday morning, the chow hall officer and the senior enlisted chief were mysteriously reassigned, replaced by the next punching bags assigned to lovely Anderson Hall. We were also told that air-wing chow halls were off limits to the unwashed grunts. It got a lot better, but never good. I would like to think that Major Buffnuts or the colonel went to Anderson Hall and sampled wares, but that would be asking too much. Things were definitely edible after the culling, but never air-wing good. Someone screwed up on several occasions, and I ended up on the Pearl Harbor Navy base and ate like a king comparatively. I think that this is the only time in my military career that witching about something bad and needing a change actually had a positive impact. My daughters both had a very unpopular teacher in different years, first grade for the older, third grade for the younger, and they both hated her. She's a screaming blue liberal who routinely stopped all classwork to rant and scream about how horrible Trump is, or air grievances about whatever liberal pet peeves of the moment happen to be, or to rain praises down upon the likes of Slick Willie, Bathhouse Barry, and Pedo Joe. My older daughter also had a truly evil third-grade teacher who mentally, emotionally, verbally, and, in a certain light, physically abused her. It started with the teacher refusing to let my daughter, not a favored child, we don't attend the church she was in the hierarchy of, use the latrine, no matter how urgent, while other favored kids could go whenever they wanted. When I filed formal grievances, this witch screamed at my daughter in class, telling her that she'd gotten her, the teacher, into trouble. She proceeded to amp things up. She confiscated a toy my daughter was showing her friends at breakfast, not in class, and refused to return it even to me. It took several months direct intervention by the superintendent, and even then she defied orders by hiding it in the classroom after she was let go. At one point, she even had it in the treasure box where it could have been chosen by another kid to take home. She began giving my daughter zeros on everything she did, no matter how much was done or how good a grade she should have had. She took to just exiling my daughter to the recovery room, in school suspension in lower grades, every day, without giving her any way to do the classwork or allowing her to get the information so she could make it up, and then gave her zeros for missing class without an excuse and not doing her work. She told my daughter that she had permission from me to paddle her for misbehaving. Not only did she not have such permission, it's against all school policies to use corporal punishment. She routinely made my daughter throw her lunch away within a couple of minutes of starting, especially if it was a lunch I packed for her. She had assigned a class project to write Mother's Day poems for their moms. My daughter couldn't do it. She's suffering severe mental and emotional trauma because her mother walked out on us on Mother's Day of 2015 and was brutally murdered exactly 4 years later by a dangerous schizophrenic. I told this teacher about the situation. My daughter told her as well. Yet she had the nerve, with my daughter in tears, begging her for any other assignments or even a zero, anything but that assignment, because she doesn't have a mother anymore. That witch told my daughter to stop lying. You do, too, have a mother? I filed many grievances against that teacher. The vice principal covered her butt like titanium skivvies. I had to fight for months with the superintendent's office to get anything done. Ultimately, I had to threaten a massive lawsuit if that teacher wasn't fired. They let her resign instead of firing her for cause. CPS was informed about her, and since she's friends with several of them via their church, the report was sat on until she'd managed to escape by leaving state, at which point CPS said there's nothing we can do about it now. Why didn't I go to this school personally? Because I was warned by a favorite teacher of my daughter that, should I show up, the VP was going to provoke an incident that would land me in jail and my kids in the custody of CPS. We were dating for 1 year when this happened. More than enough time to know how big of a mistake it would be to suggest to him how to do anything. I tried, though, by making a laid-back joke about how, as gays, we may struggle with the drills, measures, balance, and shit. So let's make it the easy way and put a table next to the wall and above that, like 2 or 3 shoe cardboard boxes. Above all that, finally the shelf itself, make some dots, drill, and voila. The answer was like, no. What we're gonna do is, you will hold the shelf against the wall. I'll take distance and say when it's balanced. Now you have to make sure to hold it firmly as I mark the wall, so it won't move. Stop. You know what? That sounds nice. Let's do that. When done, we both lay down on my bed. The height of the ends of the shelf were so different that he basically installed a slide on my wall. I loved it. He didn't spoke a word about it. Never. But his eyes. He couldn't take his eyes off the wall with a disappointed look. The whole thing was so serious for him, I can only presume that he slowly managed to make his house our main meeting place. I kind of let his house be the only meeting place at some point. He was suffering, and he had immaturity for us both. You know what I mean? Here are some updates. Some people were being kind and spending their time rebutting some criticism that was more like insults. In order to make it clear that even to these nice people, I may have failed to make myself clear, I used ChatGPT to correct my text and preserve the meaning of the story. I did this so that anyone could draw their own conclusions if desired and stop spent each other times. All updates are 15 hours after original posting. All were motivated by the nature of the comments that occurred during this period. Update 1. Before the actual modification, ChatGPT explained my post very well. Me. Read the following text and wait for instructions. Copied and pasted the content of the post. ChatGPT unrequested. You've shared a piece of personal narrative that seems to delve into a relationship dynamic. It's written with a mix of humor and introspection. From what I gather, you're reflecting on a moment when you and your partner attempted to install a shelf together. Despite your suggestion for a more unconventional method, your partner insisted on a traditional approach, resulting in a somewhat comical outcome with the shelf ends at different heights. This incident seems to symbolize a larger issue in the relationship, perhaps indicating a struggle for control or differing approaches to problem solving. The narrative suggests a shift in dynamics where your partner's seriousness contrasts with your more easygoing attitude. This difference might have led to some tension, with your partner seeking control and perhaps feeling a sense of disappointment when things didn't go as planned. The fact that he didn't speak about it, but couldn't hide his disappointment suggests a communication barrier or emotional tension. Your decision to eventually gravitate towards meeting at his place could reflect a desire to avoid conflict or to accommodate his preferences, even at the expense of your own comfort. There's a hint of resignation or acceptance of the situation, tinged with a sense of understanding for his struggles and immaturity. Overall, it's a glimpse into the complexities of relationships, highlighting the interplay between humor, communication, and compromise. It seems like you're navigating the ups and downs of the relationship with a mix of understanding and self-awareness. Update 2. Following my instructions, ChatGPT demonstrated that I was not objective, despite the post being easily interpretable. Me. Instruction. Rewrite the text I sent you so that it sounds more conversational. Make the fewest changes to achieve this goal. Use the same language in which the text was written. ChatGPT. We'd been together for a year when this happened. That's enough time to figure out suggesting anything to him would be a mistake. I gave it a shot, though, cracking a joke about how us gays might struggle with drills, measurements, and all that. So let's keep it simple. We'll just put a table against the wall, stack a couple of shoeboxes on top, then the shelf. Mark the spots, drill, and voila. But his response was like, no. Here's the plan. You hold the shelf, I'll step back and tell you when it's level. Your job is to keep it steady while I mark the wall. Sighed. You know what? Sounds good. Let's do it. After it was done, we both flopped on my bed. The ends of the shelf were at totally different heights, like he installed a slide on my wall. I thought it was hilarious. He didn't say a word about it. Never did. But his eyes, he couldn't look away from the wall, disappointment written all over his face. It was such a big deal for him, I guess. Eventually, his place became our go-to spot. I kind of went along with it, letting his place be the main hangout spot. He was struggling and we were both kind of immature. You know what I mean? Update 3. My interpretation of what may have caused confusion in my writing. ChatGPT assisted once more, correcting words that were mine to prevent more confusion as I explain. It's kind of strange to realize that when ChatGPT analyzed the text without instructions, it interpreted and described exactly what I wanted to convey. Specifically, it assumed I was the reasonable one and noticed the silence from my ex, suggesting he might be an over-controlling person. But with the instructions, the new text clearly shows I wasn't being objective about pointing out that I was fed up with being ignored. Not only did I want to, but I also knew how to make my ex feel bad, simply by going along with his bad idea. I'm all about declaring my biases. Update 4. A lot of people got stuck in the way I used the word balance. Lots of suggestion for me to buy a level. Some assume I didn't know what it is or didn't know how to use it. ChatGPT, ironically, didn't have trouble with that detail. I know what a balance is, and I know what a level is. Read Update 1 if the word is preventing you from understanding the original post. Update 5. Final considerations. No need to feel sorry for me. If something makes you uncomfortable, you shouldn't have to read it. But sometimes we've got to dip our toes into things we don't like to realize why they're unpleasant. That being said, anyone who tries to insult me instead of just downvoting or staying quiet probably isn't really reading properly. I'm not trying to label them as mean or anything. To those who fit the bill, I'm just saying, you were lazy. Fix it. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.